Marcus Ford woke up with a jolt, his head pounding like a drum. The dim light of an unfamiliar room blurred in his vision as he tried to sit up. His body felt heavy, and his thoughts were clouded. The last thing he remembered was a celebration after completing a mission for the company. A successful trade with a new alien species. He'd had a few drinks, shared some laughs with his fellow crew members, but everything after that was a blur. He rubbed his forehead, groaning softly, and then looked around. This wasn't his usual quarters. The room was grand, far too luxurious for a simple pilot like himself. Rich tapestries hung from the walls, and the bed was made of soft, shining materials that he had never seen before. The air smelled faintly of exotic flowers, and there was a hum in the atmosphere, as though the room itself was alive. As his mind began to clear, he noticed something even more shocking. He wasn't alone. He turned his head quickly, his eyes widening when he saw a woman lying next to him. His first instinct was to jump out of bed, but something held him there, rooted in place. She was stunning, unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her skin was flawless, her long dark hair cascaded around her like a curtain of silk, and her body was clothed in a gown of shimmering silver that seemed to glow in the low light. But it wasn't just her beauty that struck him, it was the way she carried herself, even in sleep. She had an air of power around her, a quiet confidence that made Marcus feel small and insignificant in comparison. He reached for his shirt, fumbling for his boots, trying not to make any noise. How had he ended up here? And why was a woman like this in his bed? He didn't even know her. At least he thought he didn't. His mind raced. The last thing he remembered was meeting the Queen of the Enderon Empire at a diplomatic event the night before. She had been beautiful, just like this woman, but he hadn't spent any time alone with her. He'd barely exchanged a few words before the meeting broke up and the crowd scattered. So why was she here now? His heart raced as he sat up slowly, trying not to wake her. He was afraid to even breathe too loudly. The woman stirred slightly, and Marcus froze. He couldn't afford to make a mistake now. As she slowly opened her eyes, Marcus couldn't help but feel an odd sense of calm wash over him. Her gaze was steady, but there was no confusion in her eyes, only recognition. She wasn't surprised to see him. It was as if this was exactly how things were meant to be.
"Good morning, Captain Ford,"
she said softly.
her voice smooth and deep.
Her tone was so natural, so calm, that it only made Marcus more confused. He swallowed hard, trying to find the words. How? How do you know my name? He asked, his voice coming out rougher than he intended. She smiled gently, the corners of her lips curling upward in a way that suggested she wasn't troubled by the situation at all. "I've known you for some time," she replied, sitting up slowly, the sheets sliding off her body. Her gown shimmered as she moved. Marcus was still trying to make sense of the situation, his thoughts running in circles. He wasn't just in some strange hotel room or some alien inn. This was different. This was something like. "Bigger. Where am I?" he asked, trying to gather his bearings. The room was unfamiliar. The air felt different. It wasn't like the cold, mechanical ships he was used to. "You're in the royal palace of the Ondaran Empire," she said, her eyes never leaving his face. "And you've been chosen." Chosen? For what? Her gaze softened, and she slowly rose from the bed, her silver gown flowing gracefully around her.
"I am Queen Lyra of the Andorans," she said, her voice no longer just calm but commanding.
"And you, Marcus Ford, are the one who will help us." He was stunned, his mind struggling to process the words. The Andorans were a highly advanced species, their empire known throughout the galaxy for their rich history and powerful technology. To think that he, a simple pilot, could be of any importance to them was absurd. But then again, nothing about this situation felt normal. "I don't understand," he said, his voice still shaking. "How am I supposed to help you?"
"I'm just a pilot. I don't know anything about your people or your problems.
The queen's eyes sparkled with something akin to a secret, a deep knowledge she wasn't yet willing to share. She took a step toward him, the room growing quieter, the hum of the air more pronounced.
You don't have to understand just yet, Captain, but soon you will.
Her words were filled with a weight that Marcus couldn't ignore. Something was happening here, something much bigger than he could have ever imagined. He had no idea how he had gotten into the situation, but now it seemed there was no way out. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. There was no escaping this. Whatever lay ahead, it was going to change his life forever. Marcus sat there, stunned, unable to take his eyes off the woman standing before him. Queen Lyra of the Andorans. He had heard of her people, an ancient, powerful species known for their technological advances and vast empire, but never had he imagined that he, a mere pilot, would find himself caught in their web of destiny. Queen Lyra moved across the room with grace, her gown shimmering as if it were alive. It seemed to flow around her, almost as though it was part of her being. Her every step held a kind of regal confidence that made Marcus feel small. And yet, there was something in her presence that calmed him, something that made him feel like he was meant to be here, even if he didn't understand why.
I know this is overwhelming, Lyra said softly, her voice calm and measured. But you must listen to me, Marcus.
There is no time to waste. Our people are in danger, and you are the key to saving us.
Marcus shook his head, trying to clear the fog in his mind.
But I'm just a pilot,
he repeated, the words feeling strange in his mouth. I don't know anything about your people, your problems. How can I help you? She turned to face him, her expression soft but determined.
It is true that you are not from our world, but there is a prophecy, a story told for centuries among the Andorans.
It speaks of a human, someone who would come from the stars and help us break free from the curse that has plagued our royal family. Marcus blinked, his heart racing. A prophecy? That sounded like something out of a myth. How could he, someone with no special abilities or knowledge, be part of such a thing? Lyra took a step closer to him, her eyes locked on his with an intensity that made him feel like she could see right through him.
The Andaran royal family has been cursed for generations. A terrible fate awaits us unless we break the cycle. The prophecy says that a human will be the one to help us, to free us from the dark future that has been foretold. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine.
What's going to happen to you? She hesitated for a moment, as if weighing whether or not to share more. For centuries, the Andaran royal family has seen visions of our doom. We are trapped in a cycle of misfortune and disaster. Every time we think we are free, the visions return. The future is dark, and unless we find the Starstone, we will face destruction. The prophecy says that you, Marcus Ford, are the one who will help us find it.
Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. A prophecy?
A curse? It sounded like something out of a bad dream.
He wasn't the hero she thought he was. He was just a pilot, used to navigating space and dealing with cargo deliveries. He didn't even know what a Starstone was, let alone how to find it.
I don't understand,
he said, running a hand through his hair.
I'm not the hero you're looking for. I'm just trying to get through my missions, keep my job back.
How can I possibly help you? Lyra's gaze softened, and she took a step toward him, her voice gentle yet firm.
The prophecy doesn't require you to be a hero, Marcus.
It requires you to trust, to believe that you have a role to play in this. The Starstone is the key to breaking the curse, and it is hidden on a planet far from here. But there are those who will stop at nothing to keep it from us. Marcus felt a knot form in his stomach. This was no longer just about him being in the wrong bed. This was real. The fate of an entire species rested on his shoulders, and he had no idea how to handle it. What do I need to do? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lyra smiled and for a moment, Marcus saw a flicker of hope in her eyes. "We must travel to the Andaran homeworld, where the Starstone is hidden. It is a journey fraught with danger, but it is the only way to save my people. And you, Marcus, will be the one to help guide us there." He swallowed hard.
"And how am I supposed to do that?" Lyra's eyes were filled with a quiet confidence. "You will learn as we go, Marcus."
"But first you must accept your role. You must embrace the fact that you are not just a pilot."
You are the one who has been chosen to help us.
Marcus's mind raced. He wasn't ready for this. He didn't know how to save an entire species. He didn't even know where to start. But the look in Lyra's eyes, the belief she had in him, made him feel as though he had no choice. For the first time since waking up in this strange room, he made a decision. He would help her. He would find a way. Even if he didn't understand everything, even if he wasn't ready, he had to try. "All right," he said, his voice steady. "I'll help you, but you'll have to show me what to do. I don't know anything about prophecies or starstones." Lyra's smile widened, and she stepped back, giving him a respectful nod. "We'll start as soon as you're ready. The journey will be long and the risks will be high, but together we will save my people." As she turned to gather her things, Marcus took a deep breath. His life had just changed forever. Whatever lay ahead, he would face it, and perhaps, just perhaps, he would discover a strength within himself that he never knew he had. Marcus followed Lyra through the corridors of the Andaran royal palace, still trying to process everything she had told him. The palace was unlike any building he had ever seen, its walls glowing faintly with an iridescent light. It felt as though the entire structure was alive, breathing with ancient energy. He had always been used to cold metal ships, sterile stations, and the hum of technology. But this place felt different. There was history here, a deep, powerful history, and it was now pulling him into a mission he didn't understand. Lyra led him to a large room at the heart of the palace, where several other Andarans were waiting. They were all dressed in elegant robes, their eyes bright with curiosity. Some of them stared at Marcus with interest, while others looked at him with suspicion. He could feel the weight of their gaze on him, the silent judgment, but he did his best to ignore it. He was here for a reason, and he had to stay focused. Lyra stepped forward, and the room grew quiet. She didn't have to say a word for them to know who she was. Her presence alone commanded attention.
"This is Captain Marcus Ford," she announced, her voice steady and strong.
"He is the one who will help us find the Starstone and break the curse that has plagued our royal family." A murmur ran through the room. Some faces softened in disbelief, while others seemed more uncertain. But no one spoke out of turn. Lyra's authority was undeniable. Marcus stood there, feeling the weight of their eyes on him. He wasn't a king or a nobleman. He was just a man who had been swept into something far beyond his understanding. But the look in Lyra's eyes, determined, unwavering, gave him the courage to stand tall, even when he wasn't sure he had what it took to carry out the task she had given him. "We leave for the Andaran homeworld at once," Lyra continued, breaking the silence. "Our ship is prepared and we have no time to waste. The longer we wait, the closer we come to the catastrophe foretold in the prophecy." The others nodded, their faces hardening with resolve. They seemed to understand the urgency. Marcus, on the other hand, felt a sense of dread settle in his stomach. This wasn't just another mission. This wasn't a routine cargo delivery or a peaceful diplomatic exchange. This was something far more important, and he was at the center of it. As they made their way to the ship, Marcus couldn't help but wonder what he had gotten himself into. He had no idea what the Starstone was, or why it was so important. But Lyra believed in him, and that was enough to make him push forward, even if it meant stepping into the unknown. The Andaran ship was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. It was sleek and beautiful, its design flowing in a way that seemed almost organic. The interior was just as stunning, with large windows offering views of the stars beyond. He had flown in many ships before, but none had ever felt so alive. Lyra led him to the cockpit, where the crew was already preparing for launch. She didn't need to say anything. The crew moved with precision, preparing the ship for its journey through the stars. The quiet efficiency of their movements reminded Marcus that he was a stranger in this world. They were all so calm, so practiced. He was the only one who felt out of place. As the ship lifted off from the Andaran homeworld, Marcus stared out the window, watching the planet shrink away beneath them. He had seen countless planets before, but this one felt different. He was leaving behind everything he knew, stepping into the unknown. The stars stretched out before him, endless and full of possibility. He was no longer just a pilot. He was part of something far greater than himself. The journey to the Starstone was long and filled with obstacles. Lyra guided them through ancient, uncharted space, taking them to planets that had long been forgotten by the rest of the galaxy. Each new place they visited brought its own set of dangers. Hostile environments, ancient traps, and more than once, they were forced to fight off raiders who seemed to know exactly where they were going. The ship's advanced technology helped them navigate these challenges, but Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. With each passing day, Marcus found himself growing closer to Lyra. At first, he had been hesitant, unsure of how to interact with someone so different, someone who had such power and authority. But as they traveled together, he began to see a side of her that was more than just the queen of the Andarans. She was smart, capable, and deeply caring, especially when it came to the well-being of her people. One evening, as they sat together in the ship's common area, Marcus couldn't help but ask the question that had been on his mind since he woke up in her bed. "Why me?" he asked, his voice quiet. "Why did the prophecy choose a guy like me?" Lyra looked at him thoughtfully, her gaze softening.
The prophecy didn't just choose anyone, Marcus. It chose you because you have something the Andarans have lost. Hope.
You see possibilities where others see only limitations, and that is what we need. Someone who is not bound by the weight of our history, but someone who can see beyond it, to a brighter future.
Marcus didn't know what to say to that. He had always been just a regular guy, trying to make his way in the galaxy.
But something about her words struck a chord within him. Maybe she was right. Maybe he did have the strength to help her. But was it enough? Was he really the one who could change everything? As the stars outside the ship continued to streak past them, Marcus realized that this journey was about more than just finding the Starstone. It was about discovering what he was truly capable of, and whether he had the courage to face the challenges ahead. He wasn't just a pilot anymore. He was part of a larger story, and this was just the beginning. The journey had been long, and the challenges they faced seemed to grow harder with each passing day. As Marcus stood by the window of the Andaran ship, watching the stars stretch out endlessly before him, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the mission pressing down on him. The Starstone was their only hope, but every step toward it seemed to be met with resistance. It was as though the universe itself was trying to stop them. Lyra, standing beside him, was quiet as well, her eyes fixed on the stars ahead. She had been a source of strength throughout their journey, her confidence unshaken even in the face of danger. But Marcus could see the weariness in her eyes, a sign that even she felt the pressure of their mission. The fate of her people rested on the success of this quest, and she had made it clear, more than once, that failure was not an option. They had just passed through a dangerous asteroid field, narrowly avoiding collisions with massive rocks that had threatened to tear apart the ship. As they approached the coordinates where the Starstone was rumored to be hidden, Marcus couldn't help but wonder what awaited them. Would they find the artifact and break the curse? Or was their journey destined to end in failure? As they neared the planet where the Starstone was said to be located, the tension on the ship was palpable. The crew worked in silence, their focus unwavering as they prepared for the landing. Marcus felt the familiar hum of the ship's engines beneath his feet, the sensation of gravity pulling him down as they descended into the planet's atmosphere. The planet itself was unlike anything Marcus had seen before. Its surface was covered in dense, jungle-like vegetation, with towering trees that seemed to stretch into the sky. The air was thick with humidity, and the sound of distant animals echoed through the dense foliage. It was a place untouched by time, a world that seemed to exist outside the reach of the galaxy's ever-expanding civilizations. "This is where the Starstone lies hidden," she said, her voice steady. "But be warned, there are forces here that will stop at nothing to keep it from us." Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of her words. They had already encountered several attempts on their lives during the journey, and he knew that this would be no different. But something inside him had changed over the course of their travels. He wasn't the same man who had woken up in that strange bed weeks ago. He had grown stronger, more confident, and he wasn't going to let anything stand in their way. The crew disembarked, their boots sinking into the soft, muddy ground as they made their way through the dense jungle. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the sound of unseen creatures. The path ahead was unclear, and Marcus could feel the weight of the uncertainty pressing on him. Lyra led the way, her eyes scanning the surroundings with sharp focus. She was a woman of purpose, and Marcus admired her strength and determination. She had always known what she was fighting for. But for him, this mission had been a journey of discovery. He was no longer just a pilot. He was a part of something far greater than himself. As they ventured deeper into the jungle, they reached a clearing where an ancient temple stood, its stone walls covered in thick vines. The structure was old, its surface weathered by time, but there was no mistaking its significance. This was the place where the Starstone had been hidden for centuries. The group paused as they reached the entrance, their weapons drawn, ready for whatever lay ahead. Lyra turned to Marcus, her expression serious.
"This is it," she said. "The Starstone is within."
"But we must be careful. There are traps designed to protect it." Marcus nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. He had no idea what kind of traps awaited them inside, but he knew that they couldn't afford to fail. Lyra had placed her trust in him, and he couldn't let her down. They entered the temple cautiously, their footsteps echoing through the empty halls. The air inside was cool, and the walls were covered in ancient carvings that told the story of the Andaran people. Marcus couldn't help but feel a sense of awe as he looked around. This place was a monument to the history and power of an entire civilization, and now it was the site of their final hope. As they made their way deeper into the temple, they encountered the first of the traps, a series of pressure plates that, if triggered, would unleash a deadly wave of energy. Lyra led the way, her movements precise and calculated, as she carefully navigated the traps. Marcus followed closely behind, his every step cautious, his mind focused on the task at hand. After what felt like hours, they finally reached the heart of the temple, where a pedestal stood in the center of a large chamber. Atop the pedestal lay the Starstone, its surface glowing with a faint, ethereal light. It was beautiful, unlike anything Marcus had ever seen, its glow casting strange shadows across the room. But as they approached the pedestal, a voice echoed through the chamber, cold and menacing. "You think you can take it from me?" Marcus spun around, his heart racing as a figure emerged from the shadows. It was an Andaran, but one with dark eyes and a sinister presence. He wore the same robes as the royal family, but his expression was twisted with malice. "I will not let you have it," the figure said, his voice low and threatening. Lyra stepped forward, her gaze unwavering. "You will not stop us," she said, her voice filled with authority. "The Starstone belongs to my people, and it will break the curse that has held us for centuries."
The man laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the chamber. "You are too late, Queen Lyra. The curse is already in motion. You cannot stop it." Marcus felt a surge of anger rise within him. This man, whoever he was, had no right to stand in their way.
He wasn't going to let anyone take the Starstone from them, not when they had come so far. Without thinking, he rushed toward the pedestal, his hand reaching for the glowing stone. The moment his fingers brushed against it, a shockwave of energy pulsed through the room, knocking everyone back. The starstone glowed brighter, its power surging. And in that moment, Marcus understood. The power of the starstone was not just in the stone itself. It was in the belief, the hope, the unity of those who sought it. He wasn't just a pilot anymore. He was part of something far greater. He was the one who had helped break the curse. As the man fell to the ground, defeated, Marcus stood tall. They had done it. The curse was broken. The Andaran people were free. And with that, the stars above seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself was celebrating their victory.